All right, so hello everybody. Thank you for joining me today. I am here with Luna Laurier, who is the author of Shadow and Moonlight, and of course the rest of that series. So we're kind of just here to talk about author journey and the book and just some kind of fun questions. So thank you, Luna, for joining me today.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm super excited.
Awesome, awesome. So let's just jump right into it. So tell me a little bit about at what point you decided that you wanted to be an author and what was your path to publication like?
So, actually, I started creative writing when I was like 15 and in high school. That's actually when I started the very first version of Shadow and Moonlight. Um, I kind of aspired to be a storyteller more than anything, not just like locking it down as an author, but potentially as like a screenwriter or something like that, or a play, like writing plays. And back then there was no support really for indie authors. You either got picked up trad or you didn't. So like as a 15-year-old you see, and this was like to show my age, this was 17 years ago. So it wasn't until you go online, you submit it, you print out your manuscript and you send it to, like, you put it in a box and you send it off to the, it's not, it was nothing like what it is now. And that was the querying trenches back then. It was where you didn't send in an e format, like a PDF of your book. You sent in a physical printout and you just kept sending it out and sending it out. And I was just like, no one's gonna want to read this. And so I put it away on, I didn't even finish it. I think I got to like chapter 25 and then I retired it onto a disc and I just left it alone and forgot about it. And then I found it again when I was like 30. And I was like, I'm going to read this for nostalgia's sake. And as I was reading it, I was like, oh, but what if this happened? And what if that happened? And oh, but what if we did this and incorporated that? And of course, I'm an adult. At the time, it was obviously a YA book, took place in high school. And it just kind of it took like a whole new life of its own, went from being a YA standalone to a new adult 5-book series with countless spin-offs planned and such. And and I just kind of had that moment. I was like, it's easier to publish books now. I'm gonna do that. And you know what? If anyone reads it, awesome. But I'm just gonna do that. I'm gonna do this for my 15-year-old self. I'm gonna make it happen. And it was at that time that I was finding Book Talk and I was getting into that. And so yeah, it was kind of just how it happened.
Sounds like it happened kind of organically, but it's kind of cool how you were able to morph it into something, that kind of fit, now, when you were 15, like you said, you were writing YA and, the way that you were able to kind of morph that into a new adult is pretty cool.
Yeah, no, definitely. There was a lot of transformation, a lot of changes. Obviously moved the character up to college and yeah, no.
Cool. So tell us a little bit about your writing process. So do you plan? Do you quilt? What do you do?
Oh, quilt. That's a new one I haven't heard.
Like
I
you
am
write out of order and then you put it together.
Oh, okay. I know some authors that write like that, and I'm just like, how do you do that?
Yeah.
So I actually am what I consider a plantster.
Yep.
And because I will basically, as I approach the story, I will get like, at first, when I'm in like the brainstorming phase, I'll get like a general concept of what I want it to be about. And then as I start to really like flesh out the plot, I'll kind of get an idea, okay, this is our starting point. This is like something that's major that's going to happen, and this might be our end point. And I kind of use that as my guide. And I might have like more intense stuff that will happen. It'll come to me as it comes. And I'll kind of like, I'll have a Word document where I'll kind of lay out these paragraphs explaining these major underlying arcs and subplots and things like that. And I'll kind of like arrange them in an order that it flows. And then I'll start writing. And when the writing comes, that's where the pantser kind of comes out, because in between I'm like, okay, this is my destination. We might go from here to there. We might go whoop, 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 and then end up there and then continue on along the path. So that's kind of how it goes for me.
Cool, cool. Well, whatever you're doing works for you. So keep doing it, right?
I definitely will. I actually kind of tried a slightly new method with the book I'm currently working on, where I actually went through, because normally I don't like lay out all of my chapters. Normally I just write, and whatever chapters I end with. But this book I actually laid out chapter plots and such, and kind of wrote out rough paragraph. Okay, this is what I want to happen in this chapter, and then I might add chapters in it eventually. But it kind of gives me a direction, because there's some chapters that I'm like, I already know what I want to write in
Mhm.
this chapter, and I might like get to a chapter where I'm like, I'm kind of stuck, but I know how to bridge that gap. I'm going to skip this chapter and write the next chapter, and then I'll return to that chapter and write that out. It's actually been working pretty good. It's been working pretty good.
Well, it's always good to try something new and see how that works for you, right?
No,
Um,
absolutely.
so tell us a little bit about what you enjoy about writing in like the paranormal fantasy kind of genre.
So I am first and foremost a sucker for vampires. That is likely be something that is just a running trend for me. There will be some form of vampire likely in every single book that I ever write. But I really like getting really creative in testing new ideas and possibilities with like magic systems and things like that. Like for instance, in the series, there are different houses of power that
Mhm.
use different kinds of magics. And one of them is the House of Dendron, and they specifically use plant magic. And particularly in book three, because I'm kind of like, I'm like 20,000 words into book three. There is a part where she is using it, and the way that it's described, it's like she can feel the pulses, the veins of energy coming through. Like, because if we think about it with plants, there are veins of that
Mhm.
run through plants where like the water goes through and the nutrients and things. And so like she can kind of feel that. And in feeling those, she kind of feels every part of the plant to be able to like manipulate it and do things or communicate with it or use it to tell her what's going on around it and such. And it's really, really fun getting like kind of like really diving into that.
That is cool. That's, I mean, I think especially for fantasy, it's just awesome that I mean, nothing's wrong, right? Like you're able to completely make it yours. So,
Yeah.
hey, like if I don't know, I'm trying to think of like crazy thing, but like, if a vampire, like, how they say like, has to be invited in, like, well, maybe I don't want that to happen in mine, right? Like they just come in. You don't need that.
And I think my favorite thing is when we find ways to tie magic systems and these creatures into our real world in such a way that it is believable, it is possible. Like with the concept of the God's realm and the veil, and how like the whole concept with that was where like my son, he would talk to me and he's like, Mama, do you think dragons are real? And I'm like, well, I can't say whether they are or not, but I feel like it is too much of a coincidence for so many cultures across the entire world that that at one point had
Mhm.
never intermingled, to have depictions of creatures that are so similar, and there not be like any kind of truth to it. So it was kind of like the concept was like, what if there is this world that they come from, that they cross over, and we can't prove that they're real because we don't see them, but someone in different parts of the world have seen it. And so yeah, I love doing that. I think that's my favorite part of it.
Yeah. My husband talks about like aliens that way. Like he's like there's and the cavemen like drew it on the walls and I'm like, okay, like I mean, I can't tell you the aliens aren't real. I don't know. Like so it's very interesting that you said that. So what do you need in your writing space to stay focused? What helps you stay on task?
um Music, that is the
Words or
big
no
thing.
words?
I'm the kind of psycho that writes to words. I will literally be sitting there writing, and because I have several playlists. Each of my books have a playlist, and depending on what part of the story, what vibe I'm feeling, I will listen to different playlists, and they're so like ingrained in my head that I'll be typing and my mouth will be moving singing the song as I'm typing a scene.
I feel like if I did that, then like I would, because I have ADHD, I would type what they're saying in the song.
Normally I would, but I think at this point it's almost muscle memory
Yeah.
for me to sing the song, because I'm not even like, the song is like background music and I'm just typing, like I'm like engrossed, but my mouth is still moving.
um, Perfect. And what is your kryptonite as a writer? What gets in your way?
TikTok.
Yeah, yeah. You do
Oh,
scroll.
TikTok. Oh Lord, the doom scroll gets me every
Mhm.
time. And I think this is why my most productive writing days are my, because I do the live writing sprint Fridays every Friday on TikTok. And I think the reason why I'm the most productive is because my phone is on lockdown
Mhm.
streaming the live. I can't pick it up and look at TikTok. And so I think that's why I end up being, I actually, before this, I was doing my writing sprints and I managed to pump out like 3.5 chapters.
Wow.
And I'm like, this is the most productive, like, this is the most I've written in all week.
Awesome. Awesome. I think that, but like you said, like book talk is just like once I discovered that, like, I think what back in October now, like that like completely like shifted my view of publishing and like, because I was always trad. Like I didn't know what indie was. Like I had no idea.
Yeah.
So it's like a catch-22, right? Like you're stuck between a rock and a hard place because being an indie author, like you kind of got to do everything, right? You have to do the promotion, you have to, get people to read your book, so it's good, but then it also distracts you from writing. So it's a
Yeah,
catch-22.
definitely get distracted from writing.
All right, so let's move on to the next part of the interview. And so let's just talk about Of Shadow and Moonlight, just in case nobody has, read the next ones, So there's a 1.5 and then there's a 2 out,
Yeah.
right? Okay. So if you had to describe Of Shadow and Moonlight in one sentence, what would that sentence be?
Oh gosh. Oh, I can describe it. Well, I don't know if my tag is technically one sentence because it's separated by commas. I have
It's
the a
one
woman,
sentence. It's a
yeah,
run-on.
a woman fated to die young, a man cursed to live forever, and a darkness that threatens to destroy everything they love. That is the premise of my book, cut clean. It even has a little bit of an Easter egg once you get through the series and you really start diving into the unhinged theories.
Beautiful. That's beautiful. And I I don't remember. I know that I read the book when I was on my honeymoon in December. Look, I have like how you just equate like some things to like memories? Like I can see myself like reading your book by the pool like in Florida. Like that's like the memory that I equate to it. So like it's such like a positive like happy memory. So it's kind of funny how our brain does that.
That's
Um
and that's even perfect because I live in Florida.
Well, Florida is definitely where well, warmer weather. I live in Connecticut, so it's a little too cold up here.
Yeah,
Um,
it's definitely
so this is the toughest question for everybody so far is who is your favorite character to write and why?
Barrett.
Mm-hmm.
Easily, hands down, Barrett. He there are certain aspects of him that are definitely me in his past that he's kind of grown from, but then there are things that he does and says with the witty banter and the things. And I was literally joking about this earlier where I was like, some of the things that he says and writes, I'm like, I swear he took over my body to write that. That didn't come from me. That came from him through me. Like there's no way, because I would have never thought to say those kinds of things. But he is definitely my funnest favorite character to write. I adore Barrett.
Awesome. Cool. I think my favorite character would have to be your female main character, right? Like I just thought that like the representation of, I mean, chronic illness like is super important. And, obviously there's more to that, but, in the beginning, she doesn't know that. And, I thought that that was really well done. I mean, I have PCOS, but, so I don't know if it's necessarily chronic illness, but, it's just nice to see those things like in fantasy, like you said, like it ties it back to the real world. It's like, okay, like they can have those problems, even though like this is what's actually going on?
Yeah, and I really enjoyed that about like writing Cassie. Like Cassie, there's a lot in Cassie that I struggle with myself. Her intrusive thoughts, her self-doubt,
Hmm.
her feeling of being a burden on others and reservation to get involved because of that, or to ask for help. Like she feels like she needs to do things on her own because if she asks for help, she's going to be a burden. And the way that I wrote her character and her condition, I wanted those I wanted people to be able to connect on her regardless of whether they had cardiomyopathy or not. I wanted anyone who suffered from any sort of chronic illness or condition to be able to connect with her on some level and feel seen.
Well, I think you did a wonderful job of that. So awesome. Um, what was the most challenging part of writing this book?
I think the most challenging part of writing this book was weaving in her condition in a way that doesn't hinder her, because obviously it adds a lot of more hurdles for her to jump through, and I didn't want to just shove it down under the guise of, oh, for the story, we're gonna make it so that she can do this. Like there's reasons behind everything, and obviously towards the end of book one you might think that something like, where's her condition, there's a reason for it, there's a reason for everything, and you learn it in book two. But it really I think that was my biggest hurdle, was just really like respecting her condition in a way that she is still like having to struggle with that, but still getting somewhere and finding herself and growing stronger at the same time.
Mm. That is a difficult balance,
It,
trying to kind of to figure that out, right? And I think it's also like having those sensitivity readers too, right? Like, or own voices or things like that, to kind of make sure that it's being portrayed like in a way, um, you know, that is accurate, right?
yeah.
Um,
And I feel like it's similar to the struggles that we face in our real lives as people who suffer from chronic illnesses or conditions, is learning how to work with them instead of just shoving past them or just giving up and not continuing. Like, you just figuring out how to do it with this hurdle that you're jumping over.
mhm, for sure. What is your favorite line from the book?
Oh, my favorite line. Let the fires of hell come for us. I will stand at your side and we will burn. Let the darkness come for it was like, let the darkness, I can't remember the exact line. Let darkness take us. I will fall at your side.
Why is that your favorite?
Foreshadowing.
Mhm.
It's also just a really special moment where she kind of, because like throughout the first book she's really resistant of her feelings for him and afraid to really let herself fully open up and connect with him, and that moment is kind of a turning point for her where she outwardly says, I am here, this is where I'm going to be, I don't care what happens, I don't care what comes for us, this is where I'm going to be, at your side. And I feel like that's like a major step for her, not only in their relationship, but also for her as a character, to let herself connect like that on such a outward level.
Mhm. Because like you said, those struggles that she has and just being vulnerable generally, like, because you're already vulnerable, right? When you have, chronic illness and you have mental health, stuff going on. And then, allowing, somebody else and like that is just, it's difficult.
Oh,
You're being vulnerable.
hold on one second. My dachshund is whining at my door, and I don't. She's
No
gonna start
problem.
getting annoyed. She has a bed in here. Let me just let her in here. So you guys. Oh my god, no. Go lay down. Go lay down. Oh my goodness.
So funny.
I'm
Um,
sorry.
no, you're good. And if you had so so when people write, sometimes they imagine their characters certain ways or whatnot. So if you had to fan cast your main characters, who would you fan cast them as?
Oh, see, I always fail at this question because I am horrible with names and actors. Um, I honestly have no clue who I would cast Cassie as, but Damien, I feel like someone told me the guy from Vampire Diaries who plays, I think his name's Damon. Is that
In
what his name is?
Holder?
Huh?
In Summerholder?
Yeah, I think that's his
Yeah.
name.
Because the other one's Paul Wesley.
Yeah, he is the only thing that I'm a little like the only thing that kind of makes me reserved on him is he's a little too white passing. Damien has that olive skin, that Greek olive skin. But he is the closest that I've found that I know like a show he's played in or a name or a movie that he's played in. Um Sadly, I would completely fail to name any other actors or actresses. Yeah, because I really need to do that. I need to take the time to go and find actors because this is the third time I've been asked this question
Yeah.
and I absolutely fail it every time.
There's someone told me about a site where you can like put in like traits and then it gives you actors or actresses that meet those traits. And I don't know what the name of the site was, but one of the authors I interviewed said that because she didn't know either. She's like, well, I found this website. So yeah, maybe you'll have to find that site. I'm sure if you Google it, you'll probably find it.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to because
Yeah.
yeah. Um
Like actor, actress, um, like trait site, maybe like a trait.
fine. We'll see. I Googled that. That
Okay.
at least
Yeah.
pulls the thought to search it later.
Okay, so let's go into the last section here of the interview. Just some fun stuff. So what do you like to do when you're not writing? What are your interests like?
So I enjoy reading, obviously. I love to play video games, primarily like RPGs like Final Fantasy and uh Kingdom Hearts and things like that. And I love to garden. I have a small farm and I have a 1,200 square foot garden. It's currently a commission right now for the winter. I'm currently actually prepping the beds to get ready to plant for the spring. But those are like my three primary things that I enjoy doing as far as hobbies go.
I love gardening. I have my father-in-law built me like a I only asked for raised beds, but he built me like a whole thing. And it's huge.
Oh,
And I love like to I just love growing my own vegetables. Like it's so cool to like go out there and just like pick a cucumber off. Like that's so cool. Like,
yes.
and you know where it comes from, like, and you save a lot of money.
Oh yeah. See, I love that, but I also love going and ordering those like unique heirloom varieties of tomatoes. Like last year we had 3 24-foot rows of tomatoes
Oh my God.
and I had purple tomatoes and black tomatoes and I even had a variety that were like white. They were called great white tomatoes and they were beefsteak tomatoes. And I was like, I'm gonna make spaghetti sauce with this, and it's gonna be white spaghetti sauce like this, and then I'm gonna have like purple spaghetti sauce. But like, we're gonna have so much fun spaghetti sauce.
That's awesome. I love that. I love that.
Yeah.
Um, and this is my favorite question. What are some books or authors that you would recommend?
Oh,
I have gotten some great, amazing ones, so I'm gonna write them down.
okay. Yeah, you better, because I got a list.
All right, perfect.
So, Deanna Ortega. I'm gonna recommend her Deanna Ortega. Uh, Jordan A. Day. Her first
I
book.
read her. I read the two.
I love her. K.A. Lee. Her debut book is Untried Origins. It's a dark fantasy romance. I saw on your list you interviewed Kristen M. Long.
I
So,
did.
um, Ali Shantae.
Yep.
She does
Living
living.
Legend.
Yep. Callista Neath, author of
Yep.
Invoking the Bride. JD Linton, author of The Last
Yep.
Storm. I
Love
love
those.
her. She is not just like talented author, but she's just a sweetheart all around. S.J. Barnett, Commanding Flame and Shield. We got Emily Blackwood. Like
Yep. I just read Of Being So Wicked.
I need to. That's on my TBR.
I didn't say of Right With yet, but because I was like, okay, like that's 5 series and I 5 books, and I was like, this is just one right now. Let me just read that one
Yeah.
first.
I want to get her omnibus of
Yeah.
that thing that's nice and floppy.
Yeah.
Those would be that's just a fraction of what I could honestly list forever, but I'll keep you.
I have some stuff. I have some stuff to read. And so I know that you kind of said, giving your 15-year-old self some advice. So what would you kind of tell your 15-year-old self or any inspiring authors who are just like trying to get it done?
Write the story that you need, and those who need it will find it. And also to keep in mind that when you write the story and release it, it's not going to be for everyone, but for that one person, it could be everything.
I love that. That's actually so sweet. I love that.
Those are the two things
Good.
I constantly tell myself, because there are people out there that have the same, that share the same tastes and needs and wants and books that you have.
So true. And so you already told us that you do listen to music while you write. So, and you do have playlists and things like that. What are some songs that make you think of Shadow and Moonlight?
Oh, the song Haven't Met You Yet, I think is what it's called. How can you miss
Okay.
someone you haven't met? That song definitely encapsulates the beginning of Shadow and Moonlight. um I made myself cry with this one. There's a song, there's two songs by Sleep Token. One of them is Back to Eden, and the other is oh crap, I can't remember what it's called, but it basically, there's this line that plays over and over again, and it's a line that's said in book 2, and it's, he just keeps saying, it's too late for me, it's too late for me, and it just keeps echoing in the background. And I found this song and I started sobbing because that's just, it's a prominent line in book 2 that is said by a certain character. And yeah, made myself cry on that one. There is a lot of songs in there though that definitely would carry a feel, but those are two prominent ones that kind of are popping up to me.
Cool, cool. And have you ever traveled anywhere as research for your book, or is there anywhere in particular that inspired the locations in your book?
So this is an exciting question. So as you know, the book takes place in Johnstown, Pennsylvania. It is a real place. I actually have family there. I used to travel there every summer growing up, and I just loved the old industrial feel of the city. It's a very old, it's kind of a poorer economy, so it's not the best, but it's so beautiful there. And you've got this mix of industrial and forest, and then there's places where the industrial is being reclaimed by forest. And so I already knew a lot of places that sometimes are only locals know of. And so there's a lot of places in these books that you can physically visit. And so actually last year we went up to Virginia for Sinful Signings, and I got to actually hop over to Johnstown because I had like a week gap in between a signing in Virginia and a signing in Louisiana. And so we hopped over to Johnstown for a few days, and I got to go, and Cassie's house is a real place. It was actually my aunt's house. She no longer lives there, but like I got to go see Cassie's house, and I managed to find Damien's house, because originally when I was doing the research, I found it on Zillow and used it as descriptions, and I found it. And I got to go to the incline plane, and me and my husband and son, we went to Stackhouse Park, and we managed to find the ruins, which there's actual like old houses there from other stuff, but I kind of played off of that and made it to where those ruins were actually the ruins of Moonhaven. And so I was like literally like posting on my Discord. I was like, you guys, I found the ruins of Moonhaven and I'm in the meadow, and I was taking pictures and stuff. And it was just really, really cool and very emotional at the same time to visit the places where my characters spent their lives in the story. So yeah.
That is really cool. That is really cool. And then the last question that I added recently was, do you have any upcoming events or signings?
I have a lot. So actually tomorrow I'm going to be in Orlando at the Plaza Venetia Barnes and Noble. In April, I'm going to be in Washington, D.C. at ApollyCon. Then in May, I have the Starfall Ball in Orlando, as well as the Valaris Starfall Ball in Colorado. And then I think that's after that, I'm pretty much buckling down and finishing the book for release and getting ready for my maternity leave to have baby. And then later on this year, I have Romantasy Book Con in Orlando, as well as Books, Gowns, and Crowns Chapter 3 in Washington State. I think those are my major, aside from like regular like Barnes and Noble signings, I think those are my major events that I have locked down this year.
Sounds like you have a lot going on, but that's so exciting.
It's chaotic. My life is absolute pure chaos right now between the signings and the Kickstarter and book 2.5 coming out and audiobooks. We start recording the audiobooks
Oh, I love
next month. Yeah. It's pure chaos for me right now.
Yeah. I mean, that's so exciting. Like it must feel like so cool to like you're getting an audiobook and like you have, events and people like are asking you to come to them and like be a guest and like that's so cool.
It's honestly, it's been a dream come true, and it's really cool to be able to look back at my 15-year-old self and say, you gave up, but we made it. It took some time, but it's happening.
It's so awesome. Well, thank you so much for joining me today. I really, really enjoyed talking with you. And so when are our next dates? When's 2.5 coming out?
So 2.5, I am um almost about halfway through writing it. If all goes well and I finish it and meet my deadline with my editor, it will be coming out sometime possibly early mid-June.
Okay.
So I am hoping that I can make it. I feel really confident though. I'm feeling a little bit after today's writing sprints, I'm feeling pretty confident.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. And I hope that we get to chat again soon.
Me too. Thank you so much for having me.
You're so welcome. All right. Let me see.